Well, I think we were treated then to a very passionate and insightful personal journey from Professor Hill over the Conservative government's 11-year tenure. And he made a point at the beginning, which is a similar point that Kim Beazley made about the inherent flexibility of navies, but also that strategic planners, no matter how good they are, will never be able to predict all the future scenarios. And so the case in point was that both Kim Beazley and Robert Hill were blessed that we had a Navy that comprised a balanced force. We'll now move on to questions. I think we all understand the business rules here, and we only have about 11 minutes. So we have a number of our assistants here walking around the room with microphones, and I actually can see someone right at the very back up there.
Neil James, Australia Defence Association. Robert,
some things never change.
Just like old times. I was somewhat intrigued in your description when that you didn't mention your own defence capability review, which basically fixed all the mistakes of the 2000 white paper and incorporated the East Timor experiences which weren't in that white paper, and led us to basically the Navy in particular that we have today and will have in the future, despite the what the 2009 and 2013 white paper said. My argument would be your 2003 Defence Capability Review actually set the Navy up for the next 25 or 30 years, and I was just a bit puzzled why you didn't actually mention the Capability Review.
Well, we did do a number of updates. Is that working?
Yeah.
A number of updates, but it was very nice of you to say that, but in some ways what I was doing was still implementing the guidance that was given through our 2000 white paper. So the point why didn't I talk about the updates? Because I was talking about the white paper. I do think that within broad guidance you do need to obviously fine-tune from time to time, and that was the approach that I took. But I do think I'm not an expert, but just I think the Navy is reasonably set up. I think that I hope the new government purchases a fourth air warfare destroyer. I think 3 is not going to be enough, but I think they will be very useful. Some would say they're a little too focused on expeditionary type operations, but I think the Navy's already working ways in which they can meet a whole suite of different tasks, which shouldn't surprise me. I've talked about the 2 bigger ships. It's just coincidence. They've got a big flat deck and a ramp, so they give you all sorts of other potential capabilities in the future. I saw the photo of that Japanese destroyer launch the other day. I've never seen a destroyer look more like an aircraft carrier. But I think the new submarine project is going to be hugely challenging. I sort of hinted at that as I went along. The aircraft are being updated. I think in terms of the major kit, the Navy is going to be pretty well served. Small but capable.
Next question. Admiral Crane right at the front. I'm sure we'll go with you on your sir as the next Chief of Navy.
Russ Crane, former Chief of Navy. Professor, thanks for your discussion. I was really interested in your point about the Southern Oceans. You've got a lot of knowledge of the Southern Oceans. You understand some of the significant issues that we could face in the Southern Oceans. Looking at our force structure today, do you perceive that maybe we've got a hole in our force structure? Is that an area where Navy should be looking in the future?
Well, I think it, from a governance point of view, it would have been better if we were able to send ships that was designed for that task, and that principle would still apply today. Basically, we made the decision that we couldn't afford that specific capability, and I suspect the government of today will make the same decision. So they will expect the Navy to respond with not quite designed for operation equipment, but I'm sure that they will do just as well in the future as they've done in the past. It's so easy to point to specific needs and to argue for the design of specific responses, but what I tried to suggest is I don't think that we're ever going to be able to afford that. I think we need to build the flexibility into the equipment that we've got so we can meet a whole suite of different occurrences.
Hello.
Yeah.
Daniel Ross, I'm just an interested party from your home state, Senator Hill, or ex-Senator Hill. I don't know if I can... you can answer the question on behalf of Kim, but you should be able to on your own behalf. In the political realm, what do you think was the worst mistake that you as a Defence Minister made? Because, like, I suppose, Kim Beazley's worst mistake or whatever, it lives on in its own right. And I'd just be curious if you could pinpoint one thing that I should have done that better.
Ministers don't make mistakes. They just get voted out. No, well, I think that's too hard for me. Now, Kim gets those who are anti the Collins blame Kim for the Collins, but I'm not anti the Collins, so I'm not blaming him. I might have to pass on.
That's fine.
Pass on that, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah. It's like hot seat. You can take a pass and we can move on to the next question.
Yeah, I much prefer questions. What do you think you did well? I think it's for others. Ask Neil James, he'll tell you what mistakes I made.
Corner Petro.
Good afternoon, Professor. Commodore Vince Pietro, Commander Fleet Air Arm. In your experience in Parliament and in Cabinet in particular, does the usefulness of navies in the exercise of naval diplomacy and maritime power projection wane in understanding and or enthusiasm in a government? And if so, how can navies do better to keep what they do in the Parliament and the government's eye?
Well, I think it is true that the Australian community admire their defence force, but it's you and not us. I think it's a little bit different in the United States, for example, where defence force is embraced in a more obvious way. Now, do you want that? I don't. We're Australian. We're slightly different. You will therefore probably be on occasions feel that you're not adequately appreciated. That the public don't understand that. The sacrifices that you make, which are not just in relation to the operations, but in relation to family and the like. But you are appreciated, and I don't think there's a lot more than you can do other than from an Australian perspective. American perspective, you'd have a lot more parades and so forth. But with the Australian psyche, I think just continuing to do the job well is what the Australian people would want of you, and I think that you're appreciated a lot more than you might sometimes think. I guess inherent in what I've just said is that there is a need, but I don't necessarily think it's your task. It might be the task of government to ensure that there is a public education of what not just Navy, but what the Defence Forces do, just to ensure that they're not taken for granted. But I don't immediately see that there's more than we should expect of Navy to do to promote itself in the public eye.
We're right on 1700, so we're tracking right on for time here. Before I close the session, Professor, can I just put a plug in for tomorrow morning, where we have an outstanding team lined up, a real bevy of experts, Professors Till, Dib and Percy, who will then set the scene for the Chief of Navy again to make some closing comments, and that really will be the grand final for tomorrow. So I hope that everyone that's here now will think about that tonight and will turn up tomorrow morning. That does bring our session this afternoon to a close, and it's been a wonderful session to have such outstanding strategic political thinkers, but exponents of the art that have been able to talk about their experiences, and in your case, sir, some very personal experiences of your time as Minister. And can I please ask, therefore, everyone to join me and thank in the normal fashion.